Okay, so I want to talk about our next project, which is really our first big project. I think we're ready. We've been playing a little bit with dice and thinking about how to work with these sprites. So I'd like us to learn how to program the game of Pig. So we have varying degrees of experience with coding. So I'm going to have 3 different levels. And depending on your experience level, you get to choose kind of what you want to do. Now, I'd like everybody to do this first level. Now, let's see, the game of Pig. So the game of Pig is usually played with 1 or more dice. The game that I have here will only have 1 die. And so the idea is you roll the die, and then you can choose to hold your score, which is based on the accumulated sum of the dice that you're rolling, or you keep going, and the idea is to get 100 points. However, if you roll a 1, you lose the points that you have. Now, it's not quite so interesting with one person, but there's a lot of coding involved here, and this will be a challenge for new coders for sure, and even if you have some experience. But let me just show you what I mean here. So when you click the green flag, it's going to give you a set of instructions, Pig is, and he tells you to roll the die and hold your points if you want, because when you roll a 1, you'll lose those rounds of points unless you have saved them and held them. So watch what happens here. So if click me starts a dice. So there's 2. I have 2 points. Now I can choose to roll again. And so 6 added to the 2. Now I have 8. Maybe I want to try again. Got a 4. So add the 4 to that 8. You have 12. Now at this point I'm going to say I'm going to hold. And what it did was it moved that current round into my total score. And so now those points don't ever get moved. It's only what's in this current round. So if I keep going, and let's see, I keep rolling until I hit a 1. Whoops. So I hit a 1. So what happened was the current round disappeared, but my total score stayed. So, to be safe, you kind of hold. But if you want to kind of live a little dangerously, you roll a bit before you hold, running the risk knowing that, oops, I might get a 1. And so with one player, this is less interesting than with another player. You might want to add an extension with this to say, well, how many rounds did it take me to get to 100? And maybe you can figure out, maybe beat my best time or something like that. So I'm trying to get to, I have it set to the maximum of 100 points. So I have to try and get there. And so you have to be careful. You don't want to lose your points. You want to eventually get there, and hopefully the next go. Oh, there. Okay. So I won, and then I have this option to play again. If you play again, it reinitializes everything, and there you go. So that in itself is quite a bit of code involved here and a lot of things to think about. So I think this is a good starter level, especially for the new coders in the room there in my class. However, if you are a bit experienced, and I have a lot of you that are, I have a level 2 version of this. And in this version, there are instructions are very similar to what they were before. Of course, now it's saying that you're playing against another player and you want to get to 100 points before they do. So basically, we're sort of the same way. So it says that my current player here is 1, and I can see I made them match color. Current player is 1, and their board is lit. So if I get 10 and I say hold, then great, I've got 10. But when you hold, it does switch to the other player. So if you get a 1, it'll switch to the other player, but you lose those points that you were accumulating. If you hit hold, it will also switch to the other player, but you get to keep those points because you held them. So now the other player gets a turn, and they got the 1 right away. So now the player here is going. That's me. I'm going to be player 1. Player 2, not so good. So maybe they want to hold to at least get some points, but then it switches to the other person. So if you can see what's happening here, this is actually pretty fun to play with somebody else. I was playing with my husband, and happy to report I did beat him. It is actually pretty fun to play when you're playing with somebody. Part of the strategy is when do you hold them, and when do you not? And just want to see if we can get to a win here, just so you can see what happens. Come on, somebody. Getting close. Oh, almost that one. Hopefully this guy. Okay, so player 1 wins. You can play again, and then it kind of resets. So that one it's a kind of an interesting and definitely a step up from that previous version. This one's very playable if you have a friend that you're playing with. Now, Well, what if you don't have a friend? Well, you always have a friend if you have a computer. So I've tried to put together a version of this game where player one is just like it was in the previous version, but player two this time is the computer, and this is still a work in progress. It's still not 100% there, but the idea is that you have the human, player one, playing against the computer. So it's my turn. I'm going to click. And what happened was I hit a 1, and it automatically went over to the computer, and it turned that pink color to show. So I'm going to hold here, but now you can see it's the computer's turn. He got a 12. It's my turn again. I'm going to hold that, and looks like the computer hit the 1 right away. And so the computer is trying to beat me, which it usually does. And so the interesting thing here is much harder than the other one because you try to have to capture what the computer would do. You have to think about what's a good algorithm for the computer, what's its strategy that it should do against the human. And I'm not going to reveal what my strategy is. You're going to have to think of how you might want to do that if you're going to take this this choice to work on this sort of an option here. We'll see who gets there first. Me or the computer. It's pretty close. Pretty close. Let's, ooh, I've almost got it. Oh, so close. All right, I think this should do it, and I won. So again, this is really for the top level coder who you've got it all worked out, and you are really set with all this stuff. And this one was a little bit harder than the rest of them. So if you don't get to this level, no worries. But if you're looking for that extra challenge, I'm setting down the gauntlet for you. So anyway, remember you've got those 3 options. Option 1 was just simple one person playing kind of against themselves without really any competition, but just kind of getting used to working with the algorithms. Level 2 was having 2 players, 2 humans going back and forth, and level 3 was having player 1 be a human and player 2 being the computer. So good luck with it. Look at all the papers. I put some hints and some tips if you're not sure where to start, and I put the rules of the game inside the assignment, and of course ask questions and try different things. That's how you'll learn best. Okay, thank you for listening and good luck.